Welcome to the classroom, students. Did you know that if you laser focus on the right things for just 10 minutes, you can make more progress than somebody who practices for an hour? Yes, I'm serious. And yes, I'm going to show you how it's done in this short practice routine. Make sure to stick around to the end because you're going to have to see how this all ties together to get it just right. First thing to practice is sight reading. But like I said, we only have 10 minutes, which means we only have time for one example. And let me give you some short tips to make sure that you're successful. Tip number one, pick a piece that's a little bit below your current playing level. The idea is to be able to play from beginning to end with as few mistakes as possible, and you won't be able to do it if you play something too hard. Number two, analyze before you play. I'm talking about things like key signatures, time signatures, tricky notes, clef changes, things like that. Tip three, play slower, not faster. I know we only have 10 minutes, but you want to make sure that your playthrough is a quality one, so don't rush. Number four, there are some great resources to practice sight reading. One of them is this Improve Your Sight Reading by Paul Harris. This book is on Amazon. I'll try to include a link in the description. I have a course over on my website. And another great thing is if you have any old piano lesson books around, you can use those if you haven't read through them. Basically, any piano lesson book that you haven't already read through, you can use as sight reading. And you can also, church hymnals are also a great resource for sight reading. I actually have a story about how one of my own students, Peter, totally transformed his piano playing with sight reading, but I'm going to tell you that at the end. For now, scales and exercises is the next one. But remember what I said, we only have 10 minutes to practice. So how should you approach this? You can't play all of your scales. Well, first of all, if you're learning your scales for the first time, spend this time to try to learn a new scale, or at least learn some of it. Maybe you just get the right hand down or so. But if you know your scales already, you want to start with the scales that you have the most trouble with. I'm looking at you, A flat minor and A flat major and F sharp minor. Those are the ones that give me the trouble. So I would probably play through as many of those as I could, but concentrating just really on one, making sure that I get something meaningful done in these this playthrough or two of the scales. If you are a scale master, then take a look at some sort of exercise like a Hannon or a Czerny exercise, learn a new one, or polish up one that's giving you trouble. I have some quick tips for scales. So what you want to do is you can improve your scales the following ways. By correcting the finger technique. That's the finger crosses, using the correct finger at the right time, the biggest thing that's going to hold you back. Fixing the notes. Wrong notes? Well, you got to fix those. And adding in the metronome, this guy, to see if you can increase speed. Remember to start out slow, and then once you can do it at that speed, increase a little bit, increase it a little bit more. We'll talk about that here more in a second. Next up, play a piece. But remember, I said we only have 10 minutes, so how should you approach this? Well, since you're on limited time, you want to either learn a new line or try to learn a new line or a couple of measures. But if you are going through a piece, getting it ready for a recital, pick only a line that's giving you the most trouble. You should really be keeping track of your problem areas anyway and tackling those first when you practice, and that will give you the most progress. I have some other tips on playing your piece so that you're more successful. Number one, make sure you're objective and you're not just mindlessly playing. Make sure that you're getting something meaningful done in the minute or two you have to accomplish this. Number two, mark down any trouble spots. Even though you're working on correcting trouble spots, if you see other things come up that you need to work on later, because remember you have limited time, mark those down and again, tackle those in the beginning of your next practice session. Number three, practice slower than normal because it's all about cleaning up mistakes. It's not about playing it and getting it to sound perfect. You don't have enough time for that. We can save that for our longer practice sessions. Next one, another piece. So if you have time, pick another piece, do the same thing. Work on only what you struggle the most with. Make sure you're marking down those problem areas. Let's get on to the next thing. Memorization is the next one. So after you work on two pieces, if you have time for a second one, get on memorization. And again, we don't have a lot of time. So what should you do? Well, I recommend picking one line in a piece that you actually know very well and seeing if you can memorize a line or at least a few measures in just a few minutes. The goal isn't to memorize huge swaths of music and lines of music. It's really to memorize a little bit at a time so that you're making memorization a regular part of your practice. Making memorization a part of your daily practice ensures that you're chipping away at your pieces a little at a time, memorization-wise, and so you don't have to memorize the entire thing right before your recital. Right? Next up, the metronome. Some quick tips on playing with the metronome. Number 1, start at a slow tempo. A lot of people try to play too fast. Only increase speed if you can play it at that tempo, and only increase it by a few BPM. That's just clicking it 1 or 2 down each time. And then once you can play it through at that speed, then you can increase it just a little bit more. Please do not get too courageous with your tempo. Slower is almost always better. It's story time! Remember earlier I was talking about sight reading, and I mentioned my student Peter, who was the first student I ever had. And Peter had a problem. You're not going to believe this. You have never heard about this problem before in your life. Peter did not practice enough. I know. I've never had this problem. Certainly never me, and you too, right? Here's the story. So Peter, for the longest time, didn't practice, and I was so tired of him not practicing and just going over these pieces I gave him, only really to punish myself having to listen to this stuff and go over it so many times. And I just got so sick of it. So what we did instead was I still gave him pieces to practice, but instead of playing those during the lesson, I just drilled sight reading again and again. And we also did a lot of ear training too, but sight reading again and again and again and again. We did that every day. And he got so good at sight reading that he started practicing, because it no longer took hours and hours and hours for the pieces to sound good. They just sound good right away when you're good at sight reading. So the moral of the story is, learn how to sight read. If you find it takes too much patience to learn a new piece, sight reading is the path to magicalness. You may be saying, Tim, what about all these other stuff that you didn't cover? What about music theory? What about all this other stuff? Well, I'll explain this here in a second. I do want to let you know at the end we have the wrap up, and I mentioned in the beginning that's super important in understanding on what to do next. But let me explain about the stuff we didn't cover, like music theory. So eventually you might have a few weeks of this limited time to practice. You're doing these 10-minute practice sessions and you're still making progress. I promise you this. If you do what we did today, you will still make a decent amount of progress. However, you're going to want to work in some longer practice sessions at some point, okay? Weeks and weeks or months and months of this, it's going to catch up to you, because you really do need some extra time each day to look at some new music theory material, learn something new like the Latchkey solution or something like that. You do want to be learning new stuff all the time. Music theory, just like ear training or sight reading, gives your brain more information to go on so that you can learn music much more effectively and much faster. So before the wrap up, I have a question for you, and I want you to be super honest in the comments. And the question I have for you is, how often do you practice? Do you practice every day? How long do you practice? You practice for a half hour, 2 hours? Where are you guys at? It's always really good for me to know like where you are at as students, because it helps me make better lessons in the future. But I'm also just genuinely curious to what you guys are up to. So let me know in the comments below. Don't be shy. If you only practice 10 minutes a day or you haven't practiced in a while, let me know in the comments. Or if you would like more lessons about practicing, maybe like finding time to practice, I do have some tips for that. Let me know in the comments. But how long do you practice? Time to wrap things up. I told you that this was the most important thing that we're going to talk about today, because if you watch this whole lesson, we were kind of talking a lot of different things all at once, but here's where it's all summed up. This is what I want you to do. Get out a piece of paper and write this down, because this is your 10-minute piano practice routine all in one place. Number 1, what did we start with? Sight reading. But remember, you only have time for one example. Do all the tips that I told you and you'll be good. The rest of the lesson is important, by the way. And then sight readings, number 1. Number 2 is scales and exercises, but what? You only have time really for one apiece. And then 3 after that was to learn a new line in a piece or work on something that was troubling you, a trouble line or measures. Same thing, if you have time, do a second piece, work on those trouble areas or try to learn a few new measures. Number 5 was memorize. Memorize one new line or polish up something that you've been memorizing. And then number 6 was metronome. Just practice 1 or 2 lines with the metronome. See if you can keep up with the tempo. Maybe get a little increase on it in the few minutes that you have. So it's sight reading, trouble exercises, piece 1, piece 2, memorization, and metronome. If you hit all of those things in just 10 minutes or so, it might be 12 minutes, but if you hit all of those each time you practice, you will still be covering most of your bases, and I promise you, you will still be making pretty dang good progress. There's one more final tip, but before we get to that, I want to tell you, say thank you to all those who have supported the channel over the years, whether it be the mods, the people that regularly watch, or those that purchase courses over on my website. Thank you so much. Without your support, I wouldn't be able to teach all these wonderful students and make these wonderful lessons. So thank you so much. The final tip. Every effective piano player must know how to count rhythms accurately to be able to play effectively. However, there's a collection of rhythm patterns that beginners always get wrong, and it's slowing them down. And if you did know these patterns, you'd be able to learn piano a lot more effectively. So watch this video next on the common rhythm patterns beginners have to know. It's been your piano teacher, Tim here. I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye.
Yes, well, this happens to be a nocturne.
Which?